Hello everyone. So in this video I want to talk about switching between bicycles of the different group sets. The reason I'm doing this video is because I know a lot of you guys are probably thinking about getting a new bicycle and you want to use your old group sets on your new bike. It is entirely doable provided if you have a old road bike and you have a new road bike. Or if you have an old mountain bike and you have a new mountain bike. The group sets are very easily to switch, and there are only a few things that you have to take note for, which is when you switch between the old bike to the new bike, you have to probably replace all the cables and the cable housing. Because the length of the bike is going to be slightly different, and it's best to just do a new custom job to make sure all the cables are at perfect length. And another thing to take note of is you're probably gonna get a new chain, depending on which bike have a longer chain stay. So lucky for me, because my old bike, a Giant Defy Composite, had a longer chain stay, and I want to remove this group set entirely to put on my new frame, which is a CAAD 9. This frame actually had a shorter chain stay, so I'm able to use my old chain. The only thing I need to do is, remove a few links, and it should be able to work here. But if you want to remove all your old group sets, and all the group sets from the CAAD 9 back onto your old bike, you will have to get a new chain, because this one, the old chain is not going to work because it's going to be too short for the other bike. So keep that in mind if you want to keep your existing lower end group sets and move it to the other bike. And I guess if you actually want to remove the wheels directly from the old bike to the new one, it's perfectly okay to do that, and it's probably the best way to do, because if you need to remove the cassette, there's a lot of tools involved, and this wheel over here that the bike you came with might not even be compatible with the cassette that you had on your old bike. Lucky for me, if I want to remove the cassette between those two, it should work. But if you have one of those new 11-speed Shimano's, you will have to have a 11-speed compatible rear wheel to go with it. So this one is my wife's bike. It's a new 105 11-speed, and my Giant Defy Composite had the Tegra group set, which is a 10-speed. And this bike that I just got had the Shimano Tegra group set with a FSA crankset and the Shimano Sora shifters. So definitely this bike had the lowest end group sets. One thing also very important I want to talk about is whatever bike you get, make sure you replace those really crappy Tektro brakes. The Tektro brake is the worst of its kind. It doesn't work, and those springs actually fail very quickly, so it gets really spongy and it doesn't have any modulation or feeling at all. It doesn't stop the bike as quickly as you'd want. So what I would suggest, anytime you switch group sets, even if your old bike doesn't have a good brake, make sure you get a really good front and rear brake. Over here I have the Shimano Tegra brake set, and my wife's bike had the 105. I would suggest the least brake you're gonna get a Shimano. Oh, this is also a Tegra group set. Okay. Yes, as you can see, I'm very safety oriented, so I really want a very good caliper brake for the road bike. Especially if you're riding on the road, you need to be able to stop quickly. Those brakes have great modulation, and it'll be like if you squeeze hard, your entire bike will stop super quick, and it's very light to squeeze the brakes. It's a joy to use those brakes on the Shimano. And those Tektro, as you can see, like the free play is like horrible, and there's no way to adjust it to make sure that it works properly. And those brakes are just horrible, so make sure you get a good brake. I'll post the link in Amazon if you don't know what brake to get. Always suggest a good pair of brakes. Okay, so now another thing to take note is anytime you switch group sets between road bikes, remember to get some replacement handlebar wraps, because you're going to be replacing all those on the old and the new. You might be able to reuse handlebar grips, but it's not going to be looking as good as, you know, a new job. And what else I want to talk about? Yes, also important is make sure your bottom brackets is compatible with each other. Lucky for me, those two bikes have all Shimano compatible bottom brackets, so I am able to actually excuse me, I'm able to actually just remove them. Let's see. Yes, I'm actually able to remove them and replace them. I mean, switch in between those two, so it's really good. And when you need to remove the bottom bracket, you need to make sure you have proper bottom bracket removing tools. If you don't know what your bottom bracket is, maybe you can ask somewhere online and figure out what exact bottom bracket you have, so you can get a correct bottom bracket removing tool for your bike. As you can see over here, I have like 1, 2, 3. I have 4 different kinds of bottom bracket removing tool, all for different kinds of bottom brackets. So, and I even have the press fit bottom bracket installer and remover for press fit bottom brackets. So there's all different kinds of bottom brackets, and that's a pain in the butt to figure out, but you need to make sure you figure out which bottom bracket you have for both of your bikes, so you'll be able to actually remove one and put it into another one. I know for a lot of new Cannondales, they have the BB30 press fit. Luckily for the Cat 9, I think it's still the old traditional like threading bottom bracket, so that's good. And for Giant, it's also threading, if I believe correctly. Hopefully it is. And I think that's all the important points that I want to mention. When you're switching between group sets, make sure you have some fresh pair of grease, so you can apply to both of the bikes. So because you probably had the bike running for a little bit, and that's about it. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask me in the comment section. Otherwise, I hope you find this video helpful, and please hit like if you do. And thank you so much for watching, and take care.